You know, when you're an IT leader, our responsibility is the security, cybersecurity of the environment that we're in. Any threats that come in, we have to investigate. Now, in schools, from an organizational standpoint, from like IT, this is an IT director, and then you have a team. But if you look at for-profit organizations or maybe bigger organizations, you have an operational side, which is IT side, and then you have a cybersecurity side, and it's two separate things. So in some ways, they have it much easier, especially in this landscape, threat landscape that we're dealing with now, where cybersecurity is becoming such an issue. But my beginnings of this happened back in 2013. I had an incident at the school. I was in China at that time, where we would set the Wi-Fi password for the staff, and this is we had a very basic Wi-Fi password, just a general password. We had two Wi-Fi networks. One was for students, one was for staff. And the staff one was actually faster than the student one. Just nature of people, you know, you had fewer staff than you had students, right? And so we would set up that password and we'd send it out, and then I would get word that it's already been leaked, that the students already knew it. So I was like, oh, that's weird. Then we actually shifted to using Active Directory to log in to the Wi-Fi network. Worked all right with the staff network, but it didn't work well with the student network. So we had these little weird anomalies happening. Then there was actually, I found a discovery where one of my computers actually had an invisible user on it, and it wasn't me. And I went to the principal about it, and I said, this is what I suspect. And they were like, there's no way that, basically it was a student that had their invisible username on it. And the principal said, there's no way that students could figure that out. And I was like, well, maybe this doesn't that. But he said this is much higher level kind of intrusion. So then I was like, okay, so I need to figure out what this is. And so I started doing a deep dive into the systems and all that. And I started finding security holes left just everywhere. I reported all to Apple. There's caching servers that you could use in China. And I discovered that the caching servers were installing an outdated version of Flash automatically on a brand new computer. So you could open up a brand new computer and all of a sudden Flash was being installed in the system's profile. But it just kept on seeing tons and tons of little security things. Eventually I discovered actually someone had got my iCloud account. And at that time, I used one iCloud account between a personal computer and a work computer. And I had a work computer lock up, and I was like, oh, that sucks. Then I was thinking, I hope my home computer is not locked. I got home, my home computer was locked up. I was like, oh boy. And I worked with Apple, recovered it and all that. But from that experience, I learned so much about security, cybersecurity, especially on Mac devices. And I became hyper aware of different little details. I also noticed an interesting security bug. If I was logged in with my iCloud account and it was on my computer, and if iTunes all of a sudden opened up by itself, that was an indication of some sort of security breach. And it only happened if I was logged into my iCloud account. So my security fix was not to use iCloud, basically. I mean, I'd use the App Store, but that's it. And I did that for the longest time. I thought it was because the region I was in, and so I actually left China thinking that was the reason. But when I went to Denmark, I saw the same kind of things happening there too. So I had to just not use iCloud. That's basically what I did, because I was just having problems. Eventually, I just retired that email account and started a new email account and said, okay, new email account, new iCloud account. I can trust it and all that. And then I came here to the Philippines. And for the hell of it, I just logged into the old iCloud account, see how it would behave. And when I logged into it, the same iTunes thing popping up. I was like, okay, there's something related to this email account. If I log into the iCloud account, I'll have this vulnerability happen. So I said, okay, I know I need to abandon this account. So I started a brand new account and got iCloud enabled and established. Everything's fine. Everything's fine until until August of last year, and that's where because I had all those previous experiences, I've been sort of hyper-vigilant on how I have my devices. I've learned that I have to have segmentation, have a separate password manager. My phone will not have the same iCloud account as my computer, and I keep everything separate. So if one thing gets compromised, there's another device. I've learned to, if a device gets compromised, I can swap out to another device in 30 minutes. So in the period of between December to basically January, I was swapping out computers almost daily because I kept on seeing a compromise. And what was interesting on the compromise that I experienced on the MacBooks was that my solution to not use an iCloud account did not fix the problem. I eventually learned what it was. It's a Google cookie session stealing, but a really advanced one, because even if I changed my passwords or use a different 2FA, it didn't fix the problem. I eventually went to passkey, and it fixed it for the most part, but if my computer, my Chrome or whatever account was in session, it could be exploited. So I had instances of my computer being at school, sleep mode, but I had the browser open and it was in session, and I had events that happened. There was no way that I could have done it because I was at home. And it told me that there is some sort of exploit out there that someone can worm their way into a Google session without needing 2FA, passwords, whatever, and take control of the computer. And usually the first anomalies are your network gets all messed up. So one of the first things I noticed is like AirPlay stopped working or had a lot of problems. So once that worming into the cookie session, then it can go in and start messing up with different things. So as soon as I got to the point where I could detect it really, really quickly, right? And as soon as I detected it, then I swap out to a new computer. At this point, the solution I've had, well, I don't want to give the solution. I have a solution. I've pretty much fixed, I think I'm very close to fixing the 100%. But it's interesting. I've reported to Google and I said, this is this and this. And they're like, well, your computer's compromised. And I said, I started with a brand new computer and I log in and I get these kind of problems. So some of the things to look out for if you have this type of bug happening, if you're targeted, is that in the Google, you can look at all the devices connected, and I would constantly see a device that was connected, and it would be in different parts of the Philippines, you know, some in the south, some in the north, and it's not me, you know. And so I got adept at kicking them out, resetting cookie sessions, doing all these things. So that's you can see if I get all of that, I get super hyper vigilant, and all those previous experiences sort of trained me up for what I went through last year. So as a role in a leadership in an organization, it's our responsibility to make sure that devices are secure. And so in some ways, our jobs are really, really hard, right? Does that share a bit of another area of hyper-vigilancy?